Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty
It's
good.
going well.
I just got Greg sent me a message saying please send me the invite via email. So hold on, let me get that going. Um, there is his email address. Paste and send. All right, let me tell him it's sent. Hang in there, everybody. Let's see who do we have. By the way, we have an addition. Last minute, pulled up from the minors, brought out to the majors.
Your sound isn't right.
My sound is not right.
It's like it's not direct or something. You're way far away.
All right, hold on a sec.
Pulled up from the minors.
Or you need to be turned up. I don't know.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go. That's better.
That's better?
Mhm.
Yeah. After we play that music, by the way, we need some new music. By the way, we need some for that particular countdown and video, so it's not associated with From the Rooted.
Okay.
All
yeah.
right. So Greg's got the link. Let's see who's here. Claire is here. 'Cause she doesn't have class tonight.
No class.
Christine, thanks for the reminder to start a watch party. Yeah, if you're out there on Facebook, start a watch party right now so that we might get others involved. Keith Williams, hello, sir. Connie Sandbrink from Firmly Rooted Greendale down in Indiana. Hey.
Hey.
We're all the way down to Indiana.
Indiana.
We're talking like
Indiana.
southern Indiana. We're talking like down by Cincinnati, Kentucky.
Really? I'm from I was born in Indianapolis.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
and I was raised in Mishawaka. So like
Whoa.
yeah, and then I moved to Oxford when I was like at 9. So
Oh, cool.
yeah. That's just funny.
So Aaron, what do you I think maybe the 4 blocks?
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll take out when I add someone's comments or a question, and then I can always take it out, and the picture gets bigger. All right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Adrian says the boys and I are watching. Lou is laughing every time you laugh. See, now I'm going to be thinking about my grandkids watching.
Hey, buddy.
All right. So for all of you who may not have been 3 weeks, has it been 3 weeks, Greg and Aaron? I think so.
Has it?
I think it's been 3 weeks,
Wow.
right?
Hey everybody, sorry I'm late too.
Well, you know, some of us have a job and you got to work, and I don't know. See, we pastors only work a few hours a week, just on Sunday. So it's,
Yeah.
Not true.
AJ, what's up, boy? What's up?
By the way,
Nothing
Reese says
much.
hi, Mr. Greg.
Like, you sound like your voice reminds me a lot of my granddad's voice, which it makes me so happy. He's a reverend in Georgia, so like his voice is like it's very like in my brain, and when he's excited, he sounds just like you. It's funny.
Nice.
All right, so just so we got about 25, 30 people on board already, and that's great. Feel free to start a watch party if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube. Obviously, you don't have that option.
Hey, sis.
Last time, 3 weeks ago, Greg and Aaron joined me, and we want to have these discussions, if not every week, at least every other week, called Listening to Understand. I believe wholeheartedly that rallies and things have a place, but at the end of the day, they just get attention.
Mhm.
Things don't change until you start having some meaningful conversations and people's hearts can understand or minds can understand perspective. And the last time we talked, I can tell you that the comments I got, Greg and Aaron, were, I didn't know that. I never would have thought. Give me a couple examples. That Greg, you would wear an Oxford hat when you go out here in Oxford because you just want no question about whether you belong or not.
Mhm.
That just startled people. It just startled people. We have a new player on the field, AJ Andrew Jones, and Andrew did an amazing job pulling together a rally march, a march that we did just this last weekend. And we went from Scripter Park all the way to Centennial Park. Amazing shot on the bridge from the Oxford.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. And so everybody, you've got a few different age levels here, right? I'm in my 60s. Greg, you're in your 40s.
Yep.
Aaron, you're in your low 30s.
Yep.
And we got someone entering the 20s, right?
Yeah, I turned 20 in July.
So there we go. So how about starting with this, guys? Here's the question I have. 3 weeks have gone by. 3 weeks have gone by in what has encouraged you in the 3 weeks, that have gone by, what has encouraged you? And then I'll prepare you for the second question. What has discouraged you? So AJ, how about you? We'll go with the younger, less handsome guy. One of the things you're going to know, AJ, is we have lots of fun. We have lots of fun. So, okay.
You were all love and peace.
Oh, I know. Everybody knows I'm lying. Everybody knows I'm lying. So, AJ, what are you encouraged about, given the let's say last 3 weeks? You weren't on the conversation, but there's been a lot of things happen, and you were involved in some things. What encourages you as we sit today talking?
Well, honestly, the Oxford leader thing came out today, and I was really nervous about what they were going to say about the whole protest and stuff like that. But overall, like, I was very happy with how it was written. It kind of wrote us all like in a really good light, and I like that a lot. And honestly just like showed an overall kind of unity that we had, and I liked a lot when we went to the our march was predominantly a white crowd, which was evident. This because we're in Oxford, which is a probably white town, but like just that many white folks that are willing to listen. And like when Greg spoke, so many people have been reaching out to me and saying that like his speech was just like it made them like realize so much. And I think that we're at this point where we can actually just understand, like as a whole like human race, we're like understanding so much more, so much faster. And I think we're just like all opening our eyes a lot quicker. And I think that's what's encouraging me, is just that everyone's listening a lot better now.
Cool. Aaron?
Yeah, I would just second that. The number of people, and just say like number of white people who are listening is just incredible, and it's super encouraging. I seen a post, it was either today or yesterday. I was talking about Kaepernick's protest, and there was this guy, he was basically just apologizing. It was like, as soon as 4 years ago, when you took a kneel, I never once thought to, it was like, I was just offended, right? I was offended by like how you were protesting and how you were choosing to make awareness. And so I never asked, well, why are you protesting? What is the reason? And so this whole post was just him apologizing and said, I wish I would have paid attention to what you were trying to say versus how you were saying it. And I feel like a lot of America is coming to that kind of same realization, like, what are you saying? And that's super encouraging. I was talking to somebody the other day about how it was just like, there wasn't this, like when I grew up, I had this conversation with my dad, like, hey man, you're a black man in America, things are going to be different for you. And I think unbeknownst to me, like not just like a conscious thought, but it was like, I'm going to have one of these conversations, with my kids, down the road. And I'm just encouraged because I really feel I have hope that that conversation is going to look a little different, you know, than I would imagine just, you know, a couple months ago. So, yeah, really encouraged.
Good. Greg, what encourages you 3 weeks into since our last conversation?
The thing that encourages me the most is just seeing the young people, and AJ is one of them. What AJ, man, what you said at the rally, it just really touched me. It touched me because of the wisdom that you had. For you to say when the policeman said, see, if you people would just comply, there would be no problem. And he drives off and you sit in your car still just thinking about that. That, you know, for you to have that wisdom at your age is just awesome. And so I know that the future will be in better hands because it's in yours. And I'll be here to help you. And another thing that I'm encouraged about is that the people are speaking now. You know, it's the people. You know, we had issues with having a protest here in Oxford. That was what, 2 weeks ago, and then last Friday, 300 people show up in a town that is over 93% white. That's encouraging. I am, and I'm encouraged because I know now I have more work to do. I have more work to do. Like, it's not over now. It's not over now. So I'm encouraged.
Good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. What discourages you 3 weeks in? What has you shaking your head and going, man, I don't get that, or whatnot? What discourages you? Let's go backwards. Greg.
What discourages me is the country always tries to course correct itself back to what it's used to. And we have another name, Rayshard Brooks, down in Atlanta. I think it was Friday. Was murdered by the police, running away from the police. Somebody sent me that video. They showed the police officers chest cam, and he was a little older than AJ, in his 20s, and like, I watched that video. It was like 7 minutes. It was 7 minutes right before they shot him, and you could see Rayshard Brooks pleading with the officer not to arrest him. I mean, he was pleading with him, please don't arrest me, please. He was under the influence. He got caught driving, and he was pleading with the officer to just let him walk home. Just let him walk home. And the officer wouldn't do it. He tried to cuff him. Mr. Brooks got scared, grabbed the officer's taser, ran off. They killed him. I mean, he didn't get to go home. Another one. And it just makes me feel like it's open season for black people. It's open season. Another one. So I gotta grieve this. Another one. So, and hearing politicians silence. Oh, hey, and not just politicians, just there's still people who are silent. So again, just like I said, there's more work for me to do. There's more work for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Aaron. What discourages you 3 weeks in?
Yeah. Yeah, that was I think, yeah, that was definitely hard to watch. And then, but I think what's discouraging about that is since we're 3 weeks in, it's even longer than that in, um, the responses, right? Like people are still saying he shouldn't have ran away. He shouldn't have taken the taser. He shouldn't have, and it's just like,
That's what they say.
I get that, right? Like I get like, yeah, be smarter. But the reality is what he did didn't deserve his life. Um, and it comes back that this officer had 12 other reports against him, or um, and it's just like, but then even more than that, like there's this guy who's a white guy who got hired by a hotel, um, and basically this cop plays this Simon Says game with him. He doesn't do anything. He's literally crawling, and the guy just kills
That
him.
was
Um, and that's hard, and people like post that saying it's all lives, like cops don't care about anybody, and it's like, guys, like why are you making this argument? Like, why in the world is so, like, I think that is discouraging, just seeing people either trying to justify or divert from issues, and you know
Thank you for that. Thank you, AJ.
Well, I would say that like overall, I don't think discouraging is a word I would like to use. I don't feel like for me, like I don't think I'll ever be discouraged to do this just because it's like this is what we're meant to do. Like we're all put on this world for something, and like at this point, I feel like this is what we're supposed to do. Like all of us that are talking right now are supposed to do this stuff, and there's stuff that makes me upset. And when I see it, I get upset, but that just kind of makes me want to work even harder to do it. But like stuff like that, the fact that the Confederate flag getting banned in NASCAR, which is something really good, but the overall pushback by people saying that like, why is this getting banned? And it's the same, and it's those same people that are talking. They'll say things like, "Well, why would you want to vote out Donald Trump? Because the Republican Party was founded on ending slavery." But it's like, why? How are you going to support the ending of slavery and then also get mad that the Confederate flag is getting banned? That doesn't really make. It's like it's not a contradiction. And so when I see things like that, I get upset because it's like it just doesn't make sense to me. But I've never been like discouraged by it. It just makes me want to work like harder and understand like, well, why are they doing this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like with the like Rashad, I think it's Rashad Brooks, right? Is that his name? That it breaks my dang heart. Like I don't know what to do. I look at that and I like, again, it's like you sit there and you just think like, well, what's going on? Like, what are we supposed to do with this? But again, we have to look at that and be like, things need to change now, and we got to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like we can't just have these names be like nothing. Like these are important people, even if like what they were doing was wrong before they died. It doesn't matter. They're still important because later on, that's we're gonna look back and like this is why we're doing this. All these names are why we're doing this, and like we have to make it so there's no more names added to this list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how I feel about all that.
It's so good.
No, that is really good. That is really good. What has happened in the last 3 to 4 weeks that is a distraction to trying to get the right message out?
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you think has been some really like positive things that have happened that are the things that should be repeated? Like people were talking everything from the fact that we've taken over part of Seattle right now. We've got riots and looting still happening. How do you guys do you guys feel that that's a distraction to what the message that is out there, or how would you answer the question when someone says, yeah, but they shouldn't be looting because you're affecting black people, you're affecting black businesses, you're affecting black homes. What's your response to those kinds of things?
So there's two quotes that I like a lot about this subject, and the first one's from Martin Luther King. He says, "Rioting is the language of the unheard." And so basically he's saying when a group is suppressed for this long and their voice is not heard, things like riots do happen. And it's honestly like it's very upsetting, you know, and I hate that they happen, but at the same time it's something that is, you know, like we see it like, and it's like it's a big I think like this movement that we're in currently, those riots and the looting and everything like that, it's terrible, but it's also showing so much that like this problem is so real that these people are doing things they've never done before. Like these are unprecedented events. And then the second is Stokely Carmichael said, peaceful protests only works when the opponent has a conscience.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
And again, that means basically like when you keep trying and trying and trying, you are doing everything right. You're going out there, you're sitting, you're kneeling, you are like listening, you are trying your hardest just to get your message heard. But the opposition looks at you as nothing but just a pile of bodies. It just kind of makes it feel like, well, why are we doing this? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, and it, again, like it just kind of, you know, like I don't know what to do here. A situation. That's kind of how I feel about the riots and like the looting, all that stuff. And I don't really see that as a distraction, as more of like kind of just an upsetting thing that's happening with the protest. I also noticed that in most news channels, they don't actually report on protests until there's like rioting and looting and things like that, which is kind of disgusting. Like there was a protest in Oakland, California that stretched down like the entire street, and it was like thousands of people, and there was no coverage on it. I saw it on social media, and I was like, "Oh, wow!" But there was no coverage because there was no looting. It was a completely peaceful protest. So it kind of just feels like this, like the news channels are trying to suppress the voice of the people that want to be heard, but they're blasting this voice of the people that want to be anarchists.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So let's add to this question. The fact that there seems to be some evidence that there's like professional people that are being like stoking up the fire and getting people angry and busting out the windows. They talk about organizations that are that I guess I read a couple 4,000 some people have been arrested for violence during protests, and something like 40-50% of them weren't even from the state that the protest was in. And many of them were like hired, drove in buses. What do you think about that? Somebody hijacking what was a meaningful protest, something that probably would have been peaceful, and all of a sudden they turn it.
Yeah. I think it's trying to control the narrative, right? Trying to like stay in control of what people think, what people feel, and then create distraction, right? If I can get you to focus on the looting and buildings burning, you're not going to listen to a people saying enough.
There is so it's like a tactic to kind of dehumanize the movement, you know, like kind of just take away and like make them think of this whole, you know, like Black Lives Matter and all that as just like a group of, like lack of a better word, like animals, like people that are like
Yeah.
feral. And again, I'll go back to Martin Luther King. One of the things he did is he wanted news coverage to show police officers beating protesters, because then it would humanize the protesters even more. So it's like the opposite is happening now, where they're hiring people to come in out of state to start to make these protesters look again like non-humans and like feral and wild and out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you
Similar
guys.
things happen.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Similar things happen with the Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
Most people assume that the Black Panthers was this violent, killing a whole bunch of folk organization, when actuality they were doing what the police should have been doing and taking care of neighborhoods, right?
They did a lot of good.
They did, yeah, tons of good, and they're basically saying, "Hey, we'll take care of us, right? We don't feel comfortable calling up the cops, and so we need people when there's issues that are happening around us. We need people who look like us to take care of us." And the media, right, was used to promote this other alternative narrative, right? Hey, Black Panthers are evil. They're out to kill people. They're out, da da da. And still to this day, like a lot of people have that picture of who they are, who they were.
Because the Black Panthers are in school systems aren't taught to be a civil rights organization. They're taught to be the domestic terrorist group.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing with the Black Panthers, a lot of one of the best examples, something they've done is they were in the peak of like the civil rights movement. They were lobbying for free school lunches for underprivileged youth. And they succeeded at getting that, but they don't that's something that's never really talked about. That's a huge thing. There's a lot of children, not even just Black children. There's a lot of the poor children that just can't afford, that they had to rely on that meal at school because their family can't afford it, and that was their only meal. So that's something that's amazing that they did, but they never talk about who actually did it, and it was the Black Panthers. And then second, back to them kind of policing their own neighborhoods. The response time for police in those neighborhoods was also terrible. So realistically, calling the cops when something arose wasn't an option, because you call the police if something happened like that, and it would be like a couple hours before a patrol car got out there. Even if they were down the street, they wouldn't go.
So good.
So
Greg?
Um, you know, I'm 42, and a lot of times it takes some time for people to you got to kind of have some history so that you can look back at history,
mhm.
and so this stuff doesn't surprise me. These the country wants to course correct itself. It wants to bring it back to what it's always been. Systems do. That's what I mean. This racial tension that is occurring, the reason that it is occurring is because the country has been operating in a racist manner for 400 years, and now the people are starting to rise up, and so of course the system of the country is trying to bring it back. And so this it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't, like AJ, what you said about how the news only covers um, protests when riots occur, and that's on purpose,
Mhm.
because the press, the media, a lot of the media is very is voyeurism. They're in there to just to unleash fear into the masses, and it's a bunch of voyeurism where people can get sensations but no feeling. And that's why these kinds of conversations where we're listening to understand and why we're trying to connect hearts, that's why these kinds of conversations are so very important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if you go all the way back, I grew up in the '60s. Um, there's always somebody trying to control the narrative, and it's something that Aaron and I have been talking a lot about. And so sometimes that's a lot that is billionaires controlling the narrative. It is billionaires that own television studios. It is billionaires that own newspapers. It's political parties that own the billionaire or the billionaire. I don't know. It's just today I don't even know where to have find the truth, right? Because like
Mhm.
the but one of the things I know is that if I sit three of you guys down and talk to you, it's real. It's real, and nobody's editing it. Nobody is got a side view. And to me, these kind of conversations have to keep happening over and over and over again, despite what the media is doing, because they're not going to help us solve this. And I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure politicians are going to help us solve this. This has to become a movement. And so you guys all participated in something out here in Oxford. I think Greg, you said we're 93% plus probably white.
I think it's
Um,
like 97
yeah,
actually.
and
I'm
AJ,
afraid like that.
you said that probably 97, 98% of the people there were white.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I think that's got to get duplicated. What do you think? That's what's got to get duplicated around the country, whether somebody covers it or not. Because I think hearts changed at Centennial Park,
Hmm.
don't you think?
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah. Like I said this before. I think that the majority of these rallies and these protests have to happen in towns like Oxford, just because that's where change actually is needed more. Like the cities are like important. Cities are important because it's highlights. It's huge numbers of people, but um, it's like these small communities that are predominantly white are the ones that have to kind of learn the most because that's where the majority of America is.
Mhm.
It's good,
Yeah.
good. Aaron?
And it was so cool to see that, right? Like just the amount of people who showed up. But then also, I thought was really encouraging was the response of the people, right? There were only a few, middle fingers and uh, thumbs
Yeah.
there was only a few and I've been to a couple different ones, some in like other cities where the response of the people who were just driving by or walking by, whatever, was a lot different. um, And so that was like really encouraging to see the community really step up and support and say, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Craig?
Yeah, it was it was moving, and I had a weird weekend because Friday I was at the protest here, and then Sunday I went to a protest in Westland, Michigan. One in a place that's predominantly white, one in a place that's predominantly black, and it was only an hour drive. And so, how could an hour drive, 1 hour, feel like we're in two completely different worlds?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one had a protest that was 300 people, predominantly white. Another one had a protest, it had to be 1,000 people, predominantly black.
Mm-hmm.
And, and just where we were walking, the land, you know, and just, just seeing the differences. It just even brings even more to bear to me, for me, how racism it's in the land.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the land, it's in the country.
Mm-hmm.
The country. It's and so we all, I said that in the speech, we all have been affected by racism. White people, people of color, black people, Asian people, Latinx people, all of us, indigenous people, everybody. So I'm sorry. There has been affected, and we
That's how my
all
grandpa talks right
need
there. There it was.
to
That's what my grandpa preaches. He has the everybody. Like that. That's what it comes out at. Just like him.
Oh, I love
That's a
it.
compliment, AJ. That's a
Yeah, it's
compliment.
good. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad. But it's just in my brain, bro. Yeah. No, I think that's
Elder preacher Greg Myers. I mean, got it. What was it? Pastor had you preach? So told you had 50 minutes.
Yo, my trial sermon. Shout out to Bishop Shelby, who conducted that, who led that protest in Westland.
Yeah, amen to that.
And it was just amazing. It was amazing. And like I always thought about this when I was a little boy, like when I grew up in Pontiac. I would go to my family church and it was all black. And then I would go to a friend from school invited me to his church and it was all white. And I'm like, what's really going on? And I mean, Martin Luther King said the most segregated hour in America is high noon on Sunday.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I think Tony Evans just put out an article that says the same thing, right? That the church's silence over the last 40, 50 years has not helped, right? Because the church over the last 40 years, 50 years could have aided the society in some of its fundamental changes by instilling some things that we're trying to understand today. Just imagine if they were being understood 50 years ago and 40 years ago and 30 years ago, and white preachers around the country, when they had opportunity to touch discrimination or whatnot, brought up some of those live wire things. So question for you then, Aaron.
It's just like what you were talking about the other day when Jesus went, didn't go around Samaria, right? He was like, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. And even thinking about like the pool of Bethesda, like this guy sat there for over 30 years and never got got in, because when he would try to get down, somebody else would jump in front of him. And Jesus is like, do you want to be healed? You know, like Jesus stopped and listened. Jesus stops for the ones, the marginalized, the ones who don't have a voice or been overlooked. And that should be the church. Christians, little Christ, like Christ, which should be. He was our model, and we should reflect that characteristic. Um,
Amen to that. Amen to that. Someone was sharing some scripture verses with me about maybe thinking that maybe like we shouldn't be involved in those protests and stuff. Um, Two sections from Proverbs: rescue those being led away to death, hold back those staggering towards slaughter. If you say, "But we didn't know anything about this," does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know it? Will he not repay each person according to what he has done?
Hmm.
That's right out of the book of Proverbs, where he says that if there are those who are being led away, right?
Hmm.
And then in Proverbs 31, he says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute, who are silent, right? Speak up and judge fairly, defend the rights of the poor and needy,
Come
right?
on.
So those are verses that I've used in defense of the unborn. Those are verses I've used for anybody that's marginalized, anybody that's not treated the way they ought to be treated, right? I mean, so if someone says this isn't a church thing, this is a political thing, oh no, I would say reversed. It's not a political thing; it's a church thing. It's
Hmm.
I don't need someone to create a law. What I need is a church to change a bunch of hearts, and you change a bunch of hearts,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna change society. You're gonna change society. So there's a lot. Let's see. Somebody's got something here. Let me just see. Hey everyone, I think to help to eradicate this societal racism issue, white people can start by inviting black people to have dinner or just have any meal and have conversation. Jardo, absolutely, and that's one of the things Firmly Rooted is going to do. I mean, one of the things that we're going to have a call to action is I want to, at Centennial Park, I want to start having at least once a month a
The cookout.
diversity barbecue. I want to intentionally have a diversity barbecue where we have a couple grills there, we cook, and we intentionally sit across from somebody, and look, it just what is it, being around somebody that you don't understand or don't know enough about
Mm-hmm.
changes that, right? It doesn't matter whether that's a black person or a Muslim or what it is. Once you're around somebody and you see that they're raising kids and they face the same issues and they got a job and all of a sudden the playing field starts to get equal. And so I agree with you, and we're going to start doing some of those things. Um, Sitting at a table, inviting people over the house, and just talking, being at Centennial Park. There's still a lot. We got about 15 minutes. I preached on Facebook and some stuff going on in Facebook. Let's see. Stephanie Womack, my daughter, says research Decatur diners. All right, here's one for you guys. We've got to look up Decatur diners. It happens here in Georgia, focused on racial understanding. So it's happening. It's happening around the country, anyways. But I'm hearing a lot of noise. What would you want to change in social media so that we might listen to understand? Because I don't think anybody's listening. I just think people are yelling.
Um,
What do you want to say to people? What do you three guys want to say to people whose social media is one of the major ways we communicate? How can we listen to understand? What would you want people to do differently or better on those social media sites?
ooh,
I, Um,
My daughter
you know,
says no more
No more
memes.
memes.
Amen to that.
Nah.
A meme, a hashtag, 4 words, and I just spoke reality. Right? It's
Yeah. I would
I
say.
mean, go ahead, AJ.
AJ, go
I
ahead.
was
You
gonna say.
first.
I was gonna say. Just like just stop and pause and think before you do something. Like honestly, like when you read something on social media, before you just hit share, think about it and be like, what does this mean? You know? And like when people put like thoughtful posts out, like things that they thought about for a long time, I feel like a lot of people just read through it and be like, okay, and then like click share and be like, I agree with this, but not really understand what they're saying.
Mm.
And then when they share it, there's people that don't agree with that, and they instantly go, "I don't agree with this," and they just instantly just combat it as fast as they can without actually thinking about, well, what does this mean?
So how do
Yeah.
we get there? Because you're right. Even a well thought out phrase
Hmm.
in a society that's so divided, and we got like a spirit of offense going on in our society. When you realize that you put out something meaningful and someone just bit your head off, or someone bit one of your friends' head
Hmm.
offs, at that moment, they're talking past each other. They probably don't
Yeah.
understand so what do you do? What do you do on social media to stop 79 posts and explosions going
Yeah.
on down below?
This is something I just did today, actually. I was like, I got in an argument. We were just talking about in this sub. Someone posted something on Facebook, and I commented underneath it, like my opinion, and then it blew into this whole thing where I was talking like 6 different people, and they were all saying things that I didn't really agree with, but I was trying to stay, as much like calm and not getting angry with them or anything like that. But then someone I was talking to in the actual message in those comments, we got in like a longer like more disagreement, and I messaged them after, like when I like right after I said the last thing, I messaged them and I said, hey, I'm sorry if I offended you in any way. Like just talk to me, like like
Awesome.
just message me on this on Messenger if you have to, but I would think we should just talk about it not on the actual comment section, but like person to person, because then I can understand where you're coming from and you can kind of understand where I'm coming from.
Hmm, hmm. That's good. I like that. Adrian said memes oversimplify everything and promote misunderstanding and confusion. And there's probably
Yeah.
some truth to that. Greg, how about you? Um, how do we get better at listening to understand when it comes to social media?
All right, Pastor Tom. This is one of my favorite verses. I got another one. Proverbs 4:7. In the NIV, it says, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Here we go. Though it cost all you have, get an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
See, Lord have mercy. AJ, this me. They know. They already know. This
That's
is who
how I
I am.
feel.
Though it cost all you have, get an understanding. Get we want to hurry up and put a statement out there. We want to hurry up and argue with folk. We want to hurry up and throw a meme out there, throw a hashtag out there. To understand.
Mm.
And if it costs you all that you have, get that understanding.
Mm.
I mean, that's that social media. Just like Tom, you said it. You said Facebook is a great place to make a meaningful statement, but a horrible place to have a meaningful conversation. That'll preach, man, and you preached it. you can't sit up there and just think you're gonna argue back and forth on social media. I'm not gonna remember what you said an hour ago. Good grief. Okay. Mute me, Tom. Mute me.
No, I'm not going to mute you. You just got to teach me how to do that voice thing. No.
Everybody.
Everybody. All right. All right. So one of the
That's so
things I
good.
thought that was really good. And Aaron, I want to come to you on this one too. And I love the fact that you quoted Proverbs where it says that wisdom is the pursuit of understanding, right? And obviously it's understanding the heart of God, but it's also wisdom is best when I first understand. That's why James says, listen, be quick to listen and slow to speak, right? Understand first. If I understand my wife, I might not have to say the things I was going to say, right? It's my prejudgment that will get me in trouble. It's listening. And so, one of the things I want to encourage is that Jesus asked questions.
Mm.
Mhm.
Rather than make statements, ask questions. Get people involved in a conversation so they say more things. And now you're not just screaming at each other. Like, what do you mean by that? Right? Not that's stupid. Tell
Yeah.
me what you mean by that phrase. Tell me what that means to you. Or can we go to a private message chat? I want to know what that means to you. Now I am not listening to respond. I'm listening to understand. Aaron?
Yeah, I agree. Like you guys are so good. Just so I always look at it as I I love evangelism. That's like a passion of mine. Just yeah, and so I was thinking about it like um, how can I be a good witness to this person in front of me, right? Like how
Mhm.
can I represent Christ well to this person in front of me? And yeah, come on. Um, so even like so I just believe we're all made in the image and likeness of God, right? We're made to look like God and be like God. And so when somebody is standing in front of me who isn't showing the characteristics of Christ, it's either because they don't know their identity, right? Or they're operating in a lie. And so it's a great opportunity for us to humble ourselves and then pull out the Christ in them, right? And so asking and partnering with God, loving this person to truth, to their truth, to their identity in Christ. And so I think that looks like a lot of listening and asking questions. But really just sitting down and saying like I'm missing something. There's something that I'm missing because I'm not getting heard and you're not getting heard. So let's slow it down and figure out where the disconnect is. Um, it's hard to do that on Facebook. I think
Yeah.
um, because even though you can have this meaningful conversation, you spent 10 minutes and writing this whole thing out, and by the time you hit post, there are like 10 other comments ripping this guy to shreds before you can post yours, your loving response or whatever. And it's just like
Mhm.
it's so hard to do it and keep it keep in control of the narrative and keep in control of everything when it's just on comments. Um, and I think it's a time waster too. I think you're gonna
Mhm.
spend your whole day being
Mm,
frustrated and upset
mm.
and not accomplishing much because there's a lot of different players on the same platform. So
Well, that's a good word. That's a good word. All right, we got to wrap up here in a second. So let's real quick question for you. Um, for the Caucasian individuals involved here or people that might watch these videos in the near future, what's a call to action? Yeah, just one thing, but one thing right now. Don't give me 19 things we should do in the, but because we're going to talk again, right?
Mhm.
Four of us are going to talk again. But what's a call to action? If you could say to uh, uh, white people like me, what's something they could do right now that would help them listen to understand?
I would say try to look at you, Pastor Donnelly, as like someone to like kind of inspire, like try to be, um, just based off of you're allowing three black men to have a voice right now. You know what I'm saying? So when you what you would have to do is go kind of out of your comfort zone a little bit and try to get that other perspective. And so like the call to action you could do is just go out and just talk to people that you don't talk to, that you never talked to before, but maybe just like maybe they have some story that you don't know. Just talk to someone new.
Okay, so let's say somebody's now back to work again. What you're saying is maybe look at a non-Caucasian employee that you work with that maybe you never said hi to. Have lunch with them, talk
Yeah,
to them, get to know them. Is what you're saying. Do
yeah,
something different to get outside of your bubble.
yeah. Don't go up there and expect to be educated. That's the thing. Don't go up there and ask what should I learn or anything like that. Just have a meaningful conversation.
Get to
That's
know them.
more important. Yeah, because when we don't want to, we're not all teachers. we're not we're not born to be educators. We're born to be black and beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, but I also think you're right. I mean, we can't make these things artificial, right? One of the things I just weighs on me really heavily is that if I don't care to understand, then what I'm saying is I don't care about you. If I just have a conversation and get to know you without any strings attached, I just want to know you as a human being, that's going to gain the trust to talk about other stuff, right? Greg, what's one thing that white person out there could do?
I'm going to say that the one thing that they could do if they know people of color, check in on them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just check on them. And if they don't know any people of color, ask themselves why.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Everybody hear that now. If you're a white person out there, your thing this week is, if you know someone of color, ask them how they're doing. Show some compassion. If you don't know someone, ask yourself the question why. Do an internal search, internal dive. That's good. Aaron?
Yeah, I would say challenge first principle. Something that I think it's just a really good exercise to look at something that you are 100% on, like this is truth, and look at it from somebody else's perspective, and just kind of work backwards, or like I don't want to be, I want to see it from somebody else's eyes. I want to see it from somebody else's lens, and because it's so easy to get drowned out with all the media and all the stuff that gets posted on Facebook, to just stay in our bubbles and see it the way we've always seen it. But challenging those perspectives, taking the time, taking the time to just, you know what, I'm gonna look at this from somebody else's lens.
I like that, and I like you said principle, right? Because since we know there are political forces and other forces wanting to control the narrative, how do we know that the principal narrative that we hold is even accurate if we're not willing to at least allow it to be challenged or shifted or have a different perspective, right? Are we so protective of the reality that we think we have that we're just going to push everyone out? Or is it okay to say to somebody, all right, we might disagree, but let me know where you're coming from. I really, really like that. I really like that. All right, guys, I've got another meeting to go to. And so I appreciate this. I hope it's a blessing to not only you guys to be able to talk and share, because what I think we're doing is we're modeling a behavior where questions are being asked. We're talking without yelling and screaming. We're sharing perspectives, and we just need this to multiply by about 20 million people.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll get there because this is beginning. It's got to begin somewhere. It's not happening on ABC, NBC, CBS, whatever. It's going to happen at a park. It's going to happen at dinner. It's going to happen at a lunch table at work. It's going to happen by doing the things that these three men have asked us to do this week. So that we've got our charge. Guys, thank you very much. And everybody else, thank you. And how about we try to do that? We try to do this at least, if not every week, we try to do this every other week, okay? Because I just want to have these conversations. Guys, I appreciate you guys very much and love you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
I think this is like our everybody.
I appreciate you too. I appreciate you.
Hey, Jay, praise God.